Have you ever stopped to think what it really means for a nation, especially one as huge and, well, complex as India, to make a massive leap on the world stage? Something kind of unexpected. It's way more than just a number changing, right? It feels like a statement about ambition, about effort, and maybe the future path for, like, billions of people.
Yeah, definitely.
So today, that's exactly what we're doing.
Yeah.
A deep dive into India's recent, really historic entry into the top 100 in the Global Sustainable Development Goals rankings, the SDGs.
It's a big one.
Okay, let's unpack this. What does this milestone actually tell us about global progress, national drive, and, the road ahead?
That's a great way to put it, because to really get the significance, we first need to be clear on what the SDGs actually are.
Right, the foundation.
Exactly. They're the 17 interconnected goals, basically a universal plan agreed by all UN countries back in 2015. The aim, pretty huge: end poverty, protect the planet, ensure prosperity and peace for everyone by 2030, and doing it all sustainably balancing the social, economic, and environmental sides.
Got it.
And the key piece of news for our deep dive today, the thing that sparked this, is that on June 24th, 2025, the UN's Sustainable Development Solutions Network released its 10th big report, the SDR.
Okay.
And it revealed India hit 99th place out of 167 countries in the 2025 SDG index. Their score was 67.
99th, wow.
Yeah, and this isn't just like a small step up. It's huge because it's the first time ever India's cracked the top 100.
First time.
And it's a significant jump, 10 spots up from 109th just last year in 2024.
Okay, a 10-position jump in 1 year.
Yeah.
Landing them in the top 100. That really is quite something.
It is.
But seeing that big leap, you have to wonder, is this something they've been building towards for a long time, a sort of long-term strategy finally clicking? Or is it more like a recent, really intense push that just got them over the line?
It's definitely the first one, but with a really strong recent acceleration. If you look at India's SDG journey, it shows pretty steady, though sometimes bumpy, improvement over the years.
Okay, so what does that look like?
Well, back in 2017, India was ranked 116th. Then we saw it climb a bit to 112th in 2018. Then it dipped slightly, 115th in 2019, 117th in 2020, 120th in 2021, even 121st in 2022. Kind of plateaued or slipped a bit there.
Right, bit of fluctuation.
Exactly. But then you see a really clear upward swing starting. Back up to 112th in 2023, then 109th in 2024, and now, boom, 99th in 2025.
So a 17-spot jump since 2017 overall.
Right. And that 10-spot jump just from 2024 to 2025 really highlights, I think, how their efforts have intensified or maybe become more coordinated recently.
I see.
And look, a score of 67 might seem, modest compared to the countries right at the very top.
Sure, compared to Finland's or someone.
Exactly. But it absolutely reflects real, tangible progress happening on the ground, especially in really vital areas like cutting poverty and pushing renewable energy. This recent jump isn't just luck. It points to policy changes, scaling up key programs, maybe, like you said, things finally clicking together.
That makes sense. It shows that consistent effort, but with a real gear shift recently.
Yeah.
So the big question then is how? What specific actions, what programs have actually fueled this? Because it's not just about the rank, it's about, actual change for people.
Absolutely. And India's progress isn't some accident. It's underpinned by a whole range of pretty ambitious national initiatives that tie directly into the SDGs.
Okay.
You can even see this reflected inside the country. Their own NTI Ayog, that's the government's main policy think tank, runs an SDG India Index tracking state progress.
Right. I've heard of that.
Yeah, and its latest national score for 2023-24 was 71, which is quite a jump from 66 back in 2020-21. So that shows real improvement happening across the board domestically.
So give us some examples. What are these key programs doing?
Okay, so take poverty eradication, that's SDG 1, right, foundational. Schemes like MGNRUGA.
The Rural Employment Guarantee. Huge program.
Exactly. Massive safety net. Plus things like PM Kisan, which gives direct cash to farmers, and various food security programs. These have all worked together.
Yeah.
And the result? Poverty down to, get this, 2.1% using the $2.15 a day measure in 2025. That's remarkable.
2.1%. That's incredible progress.
It really is. Then you look at education. They've got this ambitious new education policy trying to boost both access and quality right across the board, from primary school up to university. Huge task for a young population.
Yeah, massive.
For health, big things like Ayushman Bharat, that's the national health insurance scheme for vulnerable families. And of course, the massive vaccination drives have really expanded healthcare access for millions. big impact on public health.
Okay.
And energy, this is a big one. A really strong push for renewables, especially solar and wind. It's not just meeting demand, it's doing it cleaner, hitting SDG 7, and positioning India as, frankly, a global player in renewables now.
Right. The solar deployment has been huge.
Absolutely. And finally, think about cities. Things like the Smart Cities mission and the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, the Clean India mission, they're actively tackling urban sustainability, sanitation, waste, planning, all crucial for SDG 11 as cities grow.
So a whole suite of interconnected efforts.
Exactly. But it's also important to remember, India is vast. There are big differences within the country. States like Kerala or Uttarakhand are doing really well on their SDG scores, while others, like Bihar, for instance, still have a longer way to go. It just shows the complexity, the scale of trying to lift the entire country.
That internal variation is a really important point. It's not one monolithic story. Okay, so it's inspiring to see all these domestic programs working together, but let's widen the lens again. How does India's 99th place stack up against its neighbors in South Asia?
Yeah.
And then the really big picture globally, is India bucking a trend, or is this part of something larger? Especially if, as you hear, global progress might be stalling.
Yeah, great question. Context is key here. So let's compare India's 2025 rank 99th, score 67 with its neighbors. China is quite a bit higher at 49th with a score of 74.4. Bhutan's at 74th with 70.5. Nepal is 85th with 68.6.
So India's behind them.
Right. Then you look at Bangladesh, 114th with 63.9, and Pakistan is further down at 140th with 57.
Okay, so India's ahead of them.
Clearly. And the island nations, Maldives, is doing well at 53rd, and Sri Lanka is just ahead of India at 93rd. So it paints a mixed picture, right? India is definitely making stronger progress than Bangladesh and Pakistan, but there's still a gap compared to China, Bhutan, Nepal, Maldives, Sri Lanka. Shows the different paths countries are on in the region.
Understood. The global scene.
Right, zoom out. And the 2025 SDR report is pretty sobering, actually. It paints a stark picture. Globally, only about 17% of the SDG targets are projected to be met by 2030. 17%.
Wow, that low.
Yeah. Progress is largely stalled. And what's really striking, especially when you see India moving up, is where the success is concentrated. It's the Nordic countries, Finland, Sweden, Denmark, dominating the top ranks.
Always seem to be up there.
Right. And get this. 19 out of the top 20 countries are European.
19 out of 20.
Yeah. It shows a massive regional concentration of success. Even though some countries in East and South Asia, like Nepal you mentioned, Cambodia, Philippines, are making strides, the overall global momentum has really slowed down.
So stalling is the overall story.
Pretty much. And worse, the report actually highlights areas where things are going backward globally, like rising obesity rates, hitting SDG 2 on hunger and health, declines in press freedom that affects SDG 16 on peace and institutions, and worrying trends for biodiversity, the Red List Index for SDG 15.
That's concerning. Reversals.
Definitely. And just to throw in a fascinating kind of paradoxical point, the United States ranks 44th overall, score 75.2, so reasonably high, but it ranks dead last, 193rd on its commitment to UN-based multilateralism.
Last, how does that work?
Well, it raises a really interesting question, doesn't it, about how nations approach global cooperation. Can you have strong domestic SDG performance while sort of disengaging from the global mechanisms designed to support them? Or does that ultimately limit progress? It's a puzzle.
That is a real paradox. It makes you wonder about the link between national action and international cooperation. Okay, so let's bring it back to India. Despite this huge milestone top 100, fantastic next, it clearly sounds like the journey's not over. Far from it. So where does India really need to focus to accelerate its efforts to have a realistic shot at that 2030 deadline?
You're spot on. The progress is real. It's significant, definitely worth acknowledging. But yes, huge challenges remain. That internal state of states report we mentioned, it shows India is still lagging on 9 out of the 16 main SDGs they track. So substantial gaps still need closing by 2030.
9 out of 16. Okay, so where's the most urgent need?
Well, the reports consistently flag gender equality, that's SDG 5, and climate action, SDG 13, as areas needing really intensified focus.
Okay, tell us more about those.
All right, so for gender equality, it's about really pushing women's empowerment across the board, not just, basic education, but robust job opportunities, getting more women into the formal workforce, tackling persistent issues like gender-based violence, the pay gap. It needs deep systemic change, shifts in attitudes, too.
Huge societal challenge.
Absolutely. And then climate action. India's in a tough spot, rapidly developing massive energy needs.
Right, the balancing act.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it needs to push renewables even harder, scale up solar, wind, everything at an unprecedented rate. But at the same time, it has to strengthen efforts to protect its biodiversity, its forests, its wildlife, manage that growth ecologically.
And the cities. You mentioned them earlier.
Yeah, urban sustainability remains critical. The work on smart cities and clean initiatives needs to keep going. Focus on creating genuinely inclusive, green urban spaces. Think better public transport, managing waste sustainably, green buildings, crucial as the urban population booms.
It sounds like a massive agenda still.
It is. And connecting this back to the bigger picture, India's success or failure really matters globally. You just can't overstate it.
Because of its size.
Exactly. It's the world's most populous nation, over 1.4 billion people. Its progress is absolutely pivotal for whether the world achieves the SDGs, especially now with global progress stalling like we discussed. India's momentum, or lack of it, will hugely influence the global outcome by 2030. It's not just about India. It's kind of a bellwether for global collective effort.
Wow. Okay, so summing up, India's historic entry into the top 100 SDG rankings is undeniably a really powerful sign of its commitment and progress. It really shows what focused national efforts can achieve, even on that incredible scale.
Absolutely.
But as we've dug into today, this deep dive makes it crystal clear the journey to 2030 is very much still on. A lot of work lies ahead, especially on those tough challenges like gender equality and climate action.
That's right.
So in a world facing so many huge connected problems, where global progress seems stuck on many fronts, India's story, its upward climb, it does offer this really compelling narrative, doesn't it? How determined national action can actually shift the needle on goals that seem almost impossible.
It's a hopeful sign in a way.
It is. So the question for you listening is, what does this deep dive into India's progress make you think about? About how global goals, national action, and maybe even your own engagement connect, and how they can all contribute to building a more sustainable, more prosperous future for everyone.